Hi everybody, this is a tutorial on creating a basic rapid fire rune for your Xbox One Berserker. And for this particular tutorial it will be specifically making rapid fire that would be assigned to your tack switch or your paddle switch. So we will start by adding a rune in your private library, so find the add a rune link down here. And we will do a rapid fire on the right trigger. So go ahead and add right trigger to the timeline editor. And we are going to shoot for a, let's see, 5 shots per second rapid fire. And let me delete this because I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. We'll go ahead and start by drawing an action on this right trigger track. So this, I'll call this track here, we just added the ability to draw for the right trigger. We'll call that a track. And when I refer to the timeline editor, I'm basically talking about this whole page we're looking at here where we are editing this rune. To start an action on the track, just left click anywhere and it will add that action. And then to make that action longer, oops, I just added a second one. Hover over the one end of that action until you see the double arrows, and then left click, hold, and then drag that out. And so for example, and then to edit that action, so let me step back again here. You've got on the trigger is an analog, meaning you can just barely pull the trigger, or you can pull the trigger all the way. And that is what this, if you see this slider bar here, where the slider bar is skinny on the left end and then fat on the right end, basically the left end represents the trigger being released, and the fat end here represents the trigger being fully pressed. So if I wanted to do an action where I'm only, feathering the trigger, pulling it maybe halfway, I would put the slider bar roughly in the middle. And you can edit the length of that trigger pull at each one of these dots. Now you might be asking, let's say if I set the trigger at the beginning of this action to just be pulled a little bit, and then by the end of the action I set the slider so that the trigger is pulled all the way, you might be asking yourself, whoops, what happens in between, right? And the answer is the mod will automatically do what is called a tween. So basically here at 0 seconds the mod will barely pull the trigger for you, and then it will slowly increase the press automatically until it reaches this final value. So at about halfway here it will be pulling the trigger about halfway, and then by the time it gets here it will have pulled the trigger all the way. You can add intermediate points, and if you want to further refine, I guess, what's happening on that trigger action in between, but for what we're doing we won't need all that basically, or actually we will. So I'm gonna try to do a 5 shots per second rapid fire macro, so you're gonna have to do a little bit of math here. To rapid fire you will start with the trigger released, obviously, and after some time we still want the trigger released, and then all of a sudden we want to switch over to where the trigger's pressed, and then we want the trigger to be held pressed all the way to the end. And so what's going to happen here basically is, as this rune plays over and over again, it's going to release the trigger and then press the trigger, and then it loops and it will release the trigger and then press the trigger. And as long as this keeps looping you get this release press, and that's basically a rapid fire. The mod is just pressing that right trigger for you a whole bunch. And if it takes, this is where you have to do a little math in your head. If it takes 0.2 seconds to press the trigger once, and then you follow that out in your head, basically it's going to press the trigger 5 times per second. So this particular macro, as it's shown, is going to give you 5 shots per second. So I'm going to go ahead and name that rapid fire 5 shots per second. And that is it for your basic rapid. So you've got a basic rapid fire macro. Now, one thing to note, the way that this particular macro is drawn will only work, this particular macro, or excuse me, rune, we call them runes now. This particular rune will only work if it is assigned to a mod switch, one of the aftermarket mod switches, or one of your paddle switches. Over here on the right, there's an edit description button, and that actually lets us put an extended description. So I'm going to write a note to myself to let myself know that this rune will only work when assigned to a tack switch or a paddle switch. And if you want to know how to get rapid fire on the right trigger so that when you pull the trigger you get rapid fire, check our YouTube videos. We're going to do another tutorial for that kind of rapid fire. So that's it. Let's go ahead and hit the create button to save our work, and let's go ahead and go back to the main forge. We'll create a new rune pack. We'll label it accordingly, and let's go ahead and assign, we'll go ahead and set up a simple rune pack that includes that 5 shots per second rapid fire. So we will go ahead and set a page indicator, and this just means when you power up your mod, when you are on page 1, it's going to show you a green indicator here on the quadrant 1, and that page indicator is just there to let you help you keep track of which page of mods you're looking at. So I'll just call this my first page of mods. You can label it whatever you want, and then under the group here is where we are going to assign the macro. Excuse me, assign the rune. If you guys are wondering why I keep calling it a macro, way back on Xbox 360, we used to call these macros, but talking to the marketing team, we decided we're going to call them runes now, but I've got such a habit now. I still call them macros sometimes. Let's go ahead and pick that 5 shots per second rapid fire from the drop-down list. So this drop-down list is basically going to show you everything that is in your private runes list. And as I said, this particular rune will only work when assigned to a paddle switch or mod switch. That means switches 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just as a reminder, switch number 1 is the top left switch. Switch 2 is the bottom left switch. So if you have the paddle switch option, that's your left paddle switch. Switch 3 is on the top right, and then switch 4 is on the bottom right. And if you have the paddle switches, it's your right paddle switch. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this to the right paddle switch. And we'll go ahead and fill in this star. Go ahead and click on the star and fill it in. That way the next time you start up your controller, it will start with this rapid fire enabled by default. And then you may not want rapid fire on all the time. So let's go ahead and set up an activate deactivate here. What this activate deactivate lets you do is it lets you turn the rapid fire on or off while you're playing. So I mean, you may not want it all the time. Obviously, you're not going to want rapid fire on all the time. So we will set that up on. This can be anything you want. Just for kicks, I will use. Let's use D-pad left, just for an example. So the way this is set up right now, anytime I hit D-pad left, it's going to toggle that rapid fire on or off. And then if you want to have a visual reminder to let you know when that rapid fire is on or off, what we want to do is set up a group indicator. And if you remember, we already used kind of the quadrant 1 LED as the page indicator. So let's use the quadrant 2 LED, and I'll just pick orange. I like orange as the group indicator. So the next time you power up your mod, the little star is filled in, so it's going to turn on this whole group. When you power up, it's going to turn on the orange LED to let you know that's on. And then when you pull your right paddle switch, the switch number 4, you will get rapid fire. And then if you want to turn rapid fire off, you will hit your activate deactivate button, which in this example we have set as the D-pad left. And as soon as you hit that, the orange light will turn off and the rapid fire will turn off. And at that point, even if you accidentally tap your right paddle switch, nothing will happen. So this is what I would call kind of the basic setup for a basic rapid fire mod. It's definitely more complicated than the Ragnarok controller and some of our other controllers, but that's again by design. Our goal with the Berserker software is to give you guys more control. There was some our hardcore customer group on Xbox 360 said, we love control, we want more control, so we added that on Xbox One, and but it does mean it's more of a learning curve, so we're going to try to follow up with more videos like this to try to help give you some tips and some examples, not just tips, but maybe some real examples like rapid fire, and maybe we can do a drop shot tutorial and some other stuff to give you an idea on how to set up these mods for yourself. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, contact our staff through the help desk or get signed up at the forums. You could chat with us and some of the other Berserker customers in there. Oh, and also don't forget to hit the create button to save your work.